morning, San Angelo, and welcome to Austin Elementary. My name is Brooke Kallenbach, and I'm the principal here at Austin. We are excited that you're joining us for our San Angelo Reads event today. We've got Miss Sutton's class here with us in the courtyard, and we're going to enjoy a great book in honor of the military child. Month of the Military Child is April, and we want to acknowledge the important role that military children play in our community and here on our campus. So we're wearing our red, white, and blue today. Tomorrow we'll wear purple in their honor, and we're here to celebrate those contributions today with our guest reader, Mr. Robert Gomez. He's a retired first sergeant in the Marine Corps, and our connection is special with him because he was a substitute on our campus in the fall semester. We're excited to have him back, so help me welcome Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Mrs. Kallenbach, for that warm welcome. Class, great to see you again. So I want to share a book with you this morning that it's one of my favorites. One, because it's about a Marine, and two, it talks about the Korean War. So the name of the book is Sergeant Reckless, The True Story of the Little Horse Who Became a Hero, by Patricia McCormick and illustrated by Iacopo Bruno. And thank you to HarperCollins Publishing for allowing us to share this morning. The small red mare whined for her supper, but Korea was at war. Towns were shattered, fields were scorched, and the racetrack was abandoned. No one paid attention to the hungry little horse. Nearby, U.S. Marines were exhausted from hauling heavy ammunition uphill to a powerful new cannon nicknamed Reckless Rifle. That's when their leader, Lieutenant Eric Peterson, had an idea. What if he could get a mule to carry the shells? But all Lieutenant Peterson could find was a scrawny sorrel mare with a white blaze and 3 matching socks. She wasn't much, but she reminded him of a horse he'd had as a boy, so he took a chance on her. Back at the base, as the Marines gathered around to meet the new recruit, Lieutenant Peterson realized he'd forgotten to buy hay. One of the men held out a piece of bread. The mare gobbled it up. Then he devoured the rest of the loaf. Another man offered her some oatmeal. She licked the bowl clean. Where do you think they got that food from? What did we share in class? MRE, right? So back in the 50s in the Korean War was referred to as field rations. She was pretty, the Marines agreed, but she was small. How could she carry such heavy ammunition? And how would she react when she heard the thunder of a cannon? A mule was slow and steady, but a racehorse was high-strung and skittish. She'd have to go through special training, and she'd start out at the same rank as any newbie, Private Reckless. The first thing Private Reckless had to learn was to duck incoming fire, which meant that her trainer, Sergeant Joseph Latham, had to teach her to kneel down. First, he gave her a sugar cube every time he tapped her front leg. Then another one when she knelt down. Before long, the greedy little horse knelt down the moment he tapped her leg. Reckless also had to learn to retreat. When Latham gave the command, she had to trot back to her bunker, where another reward was waiting. An apple or a chocolate candy bar or a peanut butter sandwich, even a can of beans. Whatever it was, Reckless ate it. Next day, Latham led her up the hill to the cannon. With a little coaxing and a lot of chocolate, she soon followed Latham anywhere. Finally, she was fitted with a pack saddle, a paddle wooden cargo frame with leather straps across her chest and legs. Unlike a racing saddle, it was big, bully, and constricting. Latham cinched up the girth, and the men stood back, expecting her to try to throw it off. Reckless just stood there. They loaded the ammunition shells onto her pack and waited for her to buck. But she just put her head down and marched up the hill. Her reward that day was an ice-cold Coca-Cola. By now, Reckless thought of herself as a member of the company and was free to roam the camp. One morning, she showed up at the mess hall, which we refer to as the chow hall. Remember that? Where the cook gave her an apple. She nudged his shoulder for more, so he offered her scrambled eggs and toast. From then on, she ate the same breakfast as the men and washed it down with a cup of coffee. After she figured out which bunk belonged to the cook, she'd clip-clop into the tent at daybreak and lick his face until he woke up and served her breakfast. The men began looking forward to seeing the little horse with the big appetite when they went to the chow hall. They had come to love her, but deep down they worried that when it came to a real battle, she might not have what it takes. One day the Marines spotted enemy troops approaching Inslee. They went into battle mode. Private Monroe Coleman saddled up Reckless and led her to the top of the hill. Boom! Just as they were delivering the load, the cannon went off. A blast of hot air sent dust and gravel flying toward the horse. Reckless jumped straight in the air, even with 6 shells on her back. Easy girl, Coleman said, stroking her mane. Boom! The cannon roared again. She jumped, but not so high this time. Boom! This time Reckless just snorted. By the next time the gun went off, Reckless was busy eating a helmet liner she found in the grass. From then on, Reckless was one of the guys. On cold nights, she snuck into Latham's tent and slept on the floor. And when the men played poker, she'd join in. One night, she'd eaten about $30 worth of poker chips before they caught on. Reckless served in more skirmishes, but her most dangerous assignment came at the Battle of Outpost Vegas. That night, the men awoke to shells and white-hot flares falling right inside the base. Reckless trotted back to her bunker, trembling, and for the first time, she refused to eat. What do you think was going on with her? Why was she afraid? Nervous? What do we have coming up next on a test? STAR test, right? Sometimes you get nervous, your stomach starts getting jittery. In the Marine Corps, we call it the fog of war, the unknown. You don't know what's going on, but you get over it, right? It builds your confidence, correct? But the minute she was loaded with her pack, Reckless got to work. At the base of the path, she took a deep breath, pricked her ears forward, and charged the hill. Without a word of urging, she broke into a trot and then a gallop. The heavy shells banged against her side as she hit the steep incline. The first rays of dawn were lighting the sky as she arrived at the top of the trail, her flanks heaving. The sky was full of smoke. Shells whizzed by and cannons boomed. All day, Reckless marched up and down the windy path, hauling her load. As she passed her fellow Marines along the way, they gave her their chocolate bars to keep up her strength. Then a piece of shrapnel hit Reckless over the left eye. Blood trickled down onto her white blaze, but she kept going. Later, another piece of shrapnel hit her left flank. After a dab of iodine and a drink of water, she was back at work. Night fell as sizzling flares cast eerie shadows on the landscape. The Marines were beginning to tire, but they saw the little mare silhouetted on the ridge, her head banging as she put everything she had into her job. She was soaked in sweat, lather curling up over her saddle. When she came back down the hill, one by one the men took off their body armor jackets and laid them over her for protection. By the end of the day, Reckless had made 51 trips, gone the distance of 35 miles up and down terrain, and carried 9,000 pounds of ammunition. The battle helped change the course of the war. At last, there was a ceasefire, and Reckless was able to rest. The Marines promoted Reckless to sergeant, and then came one by one to say goodbye to the little mare who's shown as much heart on the battlefield as any man among them. When they got home, they started a campaign to bring Reckless to the United States. A ship owner agreed to pay her passage, and the men took up a collection to buy her a beautiful scarlet and gold blanket with a sergeant's stripes. But by the time the boat arrived, Reckless had eaten her blanket, ribbons and all. Sergeant Reckless, the little mare who became a Marine, is the only animal to officially hold military rank. She received 2 Purple Hearts and retired with full military honors and the rank of Staff Sergeant. Her story is a testament to the mysterious bond between the humans and animals and proof of the Marine Corps motto, Semper Fidelis, which means always faithful. Class, I want to thank you for allowing me to come read to you this morning, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck. Always remember, remain Semper Fidelis and always faithful to this school. Thank you very much.